Welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast.
You just made the list! Oh no!
Brother Nero, I knew you'd come.
Not only does that mean that you're next, it means Brock Lesnar, you're last!
I need to talk to you real quick because the fact is, you're the one that calls me the coward, but you're the one that doesn't get in the WWE ring again.
Bada boom! Realest guys in the room, how you doing?
Wait! Hey! Austin! Austin's done the Donald!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the wrestling podcast where we give you the wrestling news of the week and drop for you some unfortunate news. Oh, yes. My name, of course, is Turbo Tony. I'm here with my partner in crime, my broham, if you remember that age-old terminology. It's Matt Marsander.
I don't remember that age-old terminology.
Don't remember broham? No, it's an old one. It's certainly.
It just seems like a very terrible mix of sort of like Lord of the Rings.
my shield brother, my broham.
I am the shield bearer of Broham.
Yeah. You know, if you're ever coming up with any fantasy backdrops, Matt, then that's what you can think of. Yeah, exactly. You got Broham, the village of the horses, Broham. Yes. How are you doing anyway this week, Matt?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm quite tired because I haven't fully recovered from a concert last night, but I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm. You get plenty of time to talk about that in a little bit. Of course, you guys can interact with us. The main way of doing so is our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. You can send us any tweets to our Twitter handle. This Twitter handle is just brings a tear to my eye, just how special it is. And that Twitter handle is
at Talk Wrestle Pod.
It does. I might get a bit emotional. And of course, you can send us any private messages, audio questions of the like to Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. I guess we should explain the format of the show, and more likely will end up being the title of the show. We had a lot of talk this week, and I think that some fans realized after our rant last week about just general wrestling burnout, the kind of state that I think that me and Matt are both in when it comes to wrestling in general. We ended up having a chat over the course of the week. Mm-hmm. And initially when we did the podcast, Matt, it was for us to be able to have like a creative outlet and for us to essentially create something, see where it goes, and get something out of, you know, chatting about wrestling every single week. And almost like an extension of our enthusiasm for the medium of pro wrestling. That was essentially kind of where it came from. The thing about this is, and the reason why we've come to the decision that we've come to about the podcast, because I want to explain why before I explain exactly what's going on, is that I feel as if one thing that we've strived to be above anything else is genuine here on the show. If we're giving our thoughts, for better or for worse, they're our thoughts, you know, and if we give our opinions, you know, they're not changed by anything else that we've seen, or if we think that some people won't like it. Even the jokes that we've made, just everything, we've tried to make it as genuine as it can be. And the one thing that I hate, Matt, when it comes to shows that maybe outstay their welcome a little bit, in the terms of, you can definitely know when you're watching someone doing something that they just don't have any enthusiasm for anymore.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point, I remember that thing out of Batman, Matt, where it's like, you either, you just like live long enough to see yourself become the villain sort of thing. It's kind of a little bit like that. If you keep trying to push through, eventually people will start figuring you out. And it was only a matter of time, I think, when it came to us, especially with the fact that the last couple of weeks on, let's say the last 8-10 episodes, it's a lot of those episodes we may not have even watched all the shows that we should have been watching over the course of that time. And I think that's the biggest indicator of all. So basically, this is the announcement that we're going here, guys. We're going on a break from the podcast from now until Royal Rumble, and I'm not going to bullshit you, but there may be a chance that over the course of, let's say, something like 6 weeks until that point, Matt, roughly about then, until Royal Rumble.
I don't even know when Royal Rumble is.
Around about the end of January, and we're halfway into December, so I say
Rumble 2017. January 29th.
29th. Yeah, so around that anyway, or give or take. Now, before you guys type anything in the comments, I am fully aware that this may kill the channel. I know how YouTube works. You take any sort of extended break, you lose a large chunk of your viewer base. I'm not naive to that fact, and me and Matt have spoken about that over the course of the week. And one of the things that I said over the course of the week is that I don't like the idea of being shackled to that idea and putting out a show that we're not entirely happy with just for the sake of, well, we need to keep the viewer base. I think that's...
If anything, I think it's actually more of a disservice to you guys.
Yeah.
If we just sort of like push to keep it going.
Yeah, I would hate to look back on like the last couple of episodes and be like, the content we delivered there was a little bit ham-fisted. Oh, I don't believe we got to that point yet, but I have to admit, guys, it was getting close. And it's one of those things that it isn't primarily through podcasting. I still enjoy podcasting. I still enjoy the medium of sitting down, with my best friend, who is Matt, of course, and just talking about things. I do enjoy the medium. But I think it's just in terms of wrestling, and I've said this before, there has been times where I've needed to step away from wrestling and just give it a little breathing space and to allow myself to be a less than 100% dutiful fan and catching every single show back to back. Because I think that title last week of us saying that that the WWE's content was killing us, that was more prevalent, I think, than maybe some had understood. Yeah, it really was killing us in that front in terms of enthusiasm. So I know it's not great news, and I know it's news that you guys might not like to hear, because like I said, I'm not going to bullshit you. It may come around to Royal Rumble. We end up reviewing Royal Rumble, and myself and Matt talk to each other and say, it's just not working. And then in that case, we'll have to give you even worse news and say, look, we're shutting up shop. I'm not going to lie to you and say to you guys that it's a full-on guarantee that we do the 6-week break, we come back and suddenly everything's okay, because it might not.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave anyone under any false pretenses. So that's really the bad news and the kind of the thought track on it. It's just because myself and Matt are just burned out. It's just the way it is. It was one of those things, Matt, where instead of being excited to watch a 2-hour or 3-hour episode of wrestling and the other stuff that goes around it and making time for it, we make excuses for not watching the show. And I think that speaks volumes of itself. You know, that, if you're making excuses to not watch the show, I think something has to give. And I am fully aware as well, by the way, of the sort of ridiculously that we only just went past episode 150 and I named that and we're not stopping anytime soon. And then
here we are.
Here we are. I fully understand that. And I'm also very hesitant to say I'd make a firm goodbye or anything along those fronts, because the channel's not going anywhere. It's going to stay there. I may even use it as an avenue to upload some stuff down the line. It's just, in terms of a weekly podcast, that may not be carrying on the way it is. But it's just due to whatever myself and Matt think. It might be one of those things, Matt, that, as I said to yourself over the week, we decide to do something else outside of wrestling. We decide to do something in wrestling, just under a different medium and a different format. Maybe we don't decide to do anything in terms of uploading or doing anything creative along those lines for a while, just to detox. Mm-hmm. But regardless of that, I have to say that in terms of wrapping my head around it, because we've been podcasting for 3 years, to wrap my head around not having to build my week around the schedule of watching, writing, recording, rendering, releasing, has been quite liberating on that front. So, but we'll see how it goes. So I know there's going to be some fans listen to this, and it's going to be like the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Are like, no, this can't happen, sort of thing. But as you said there, Matt, I feel it'd be a disservice if we were just trying to push through for the sake of doing it.
Yeah,
and no one can exactly say to us that we didn't give this the shit a good run. For, like I said, 3 years. But like I said, that's giving you an insight into our mindset. So this is the last episode of 2016. There is no Raw or SmackDown review for those very same reasons. But we are going to cover the news, and we are going to cover the fan feedback, because one of the things that myself and Matt have done is that at very least we've answered 95% of the questions that have come in. So the very idea of us leaving without answering the questions that are left over the last week or so just didn't sit well with me. So I put that in there. But no reviews. It's just us going through the news and getting the questions out there, and still giving you somewhat of an episode this week to talk about. So it still will be entertaining. So that's the way that it goes. Is there anything else that you want to add on to that, Matt?
No.
On that at all? Because
I think it is what it is.
Yeah, for me, it was hard to cover. I didn't know how to really go.
I think it's whilst we were chatting about it during the week, it was just sort of like, oh, well, I don't know. But the other thing is, it's actually kind of easy because we're both in this mindset now that it's like, well, maybe it is time. So, like I said to you, it'd be really difficult if I was turning around and going, do you know what, I'm not feeling it. You're like, I want to carry on to another 100.
Yeah. It's surprising. I think that's one of the things, though, that you and me have been around each other for so long. It's very rare that we're not on the same wavelength when it comes to things. So when we were talking about it, it was pretty much the pair of us going, okay, fair enough. And that's where we are with it. Anyway, let's get on with this show anyway. We're going to give you about an hour-long show there this week, and a lot of it was already taken up with just covering that. But we do have some stuff to get through. A little bit of procrastination, Matt, of course. Matt, you went to a show, and you had a few interesting tidbits to take out of that. Do you want to tell us about the you heading over to Wembley last night?
I went to Wembley Arena. I saw Korn and Limp Bizkit. Korn headline. It was amazing. It was awesome. I'm finding it really difficult because my other half was like, well, who was better, them or Alter Bridge? And I'm like, it's two completely different types of band. Yeah. So I think with Alter Bridge,
you have to appreciate them in different ways, don't you?
Yeah. For Alter Bridge, we were sat down and it was just good to sit and just take it all in. But for both Limp Bizkit and Korn, I was standing in the standing section because it's that sort of thing. It's such high energy. You need if I was sat down, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, with those bands, they're a lot more visceral with their music anyway, aren't they? So, yeah.
But, yeah, no, it was awesome. I even met Jimmy Havoc, which was so bizarre.
When you sent me this, by the way, I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, did you just, like, who are you bumping into there?
I was just sort of, like, walking away from the bar sort of thing. I just turned around and went, oh, my God. There's that sort of brief moment where just, like, instant recognition. Like, I know the hair, I know the bit. You're Jimmy Havoc. He was talking to someone. I felt like that real dickhead person. Just like, I'm sorry. I just want to quickly say, just like, big fan, shook his hand, and that was that. I was like, I'll leave it at that. Like, everyone's here for a good time, and I don't want to, like, overstay or anything. I didn't even ask for a picture. I was like, just shake a hand, just like, mate, just awesome stuff for the British scene, and just left it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, in and out, man. In and out. That's it.
But I was like, great. It's Jimmy Havoc.
It was funny, actually. As soon as you sent me that you met him, I checked his Twitter just to see if you actually had taken a picture and you put it up or something like that. Just sort of random.
No.
But yeah, was there a lot of people that noticed him that he was there, or were you not around that long enough to?
I wasn't around that long. I mean, it seemed the guys he was chatting with were just actual, like, those he was there with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really stick around long enough to just like, I'll watch him and see what he does.
Yeah.
So I just sort of like, just, we've had good stuff. Cheers. Have a good night. I just left it at that.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, no, it was awesome. It was an awesome concert. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like a loaded lineup just to have those two on it anyway. So
yeah, the other band I hadn't even heard of, a band called like Mad Ball, whoever they were.
To be fair, though, when we saw Auto Bridge, we had about 4 bands leading up to them that we had no clue who they were. So,
one of which you definitely weren't a fan of.
Yeah. The 6-hour show that ended up being. The more I think about that, the more I'm like, 6-hour show. That seems a bit off to me. Maybe it's because it was a bigger venue. I don't know. But
yeah.
There we are. In terms of the only procrastination I have, Matt, is that I have said beforehand that I've been watching tons of Star Trek Voyager, right? I'm not the biggest Trekkie out there. I don't follow it, or anything along those lines. But me and my wife were going through. I had watched it before. I watched a lot with my dad. So I was like, why don't we just go through watching Voyager from start to finish? So we're doing that. We're now on season 4. And for any Trekkie out there, that means the introduction of 7 of 9. Hot damn.
Bodysuits and boobs. Yes.
Woo-wee. Oh, damn. Yeah, I'd have me some of that. I really would. It's actually an episode where Harry Kim has the opportunity to bang her and he just pussies out. And I'm like, dude, how could you do that? Come on.
Just typical Harry Kim, that.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't do it. So enjoying that. It's one of those things that actually that I'm having so much fun watching through them all again that if I had the foresight and I had like a channel that like covered things that just wasn't wrestling, I probably would have reviewed every single episode after watching it and just like banged them all out and done it all myself. But it's one of those things that my wife likes to watch it in fucking binge. So she'll watch like 4 episodes a night. It's unreal. I can't keep up with that. So like, it's just one of those things where like, I'm struggling to keep up with. But let's just watch another one. I'm like, I need just some time to sit on what's happened to figure it out and to really think about it. No, it's just like a machine gun, but still, good stuff. For many young boys watching 7 of 9, an awakening of sorts, and myself included. I was like, was it like 12 or 13 when that first came out, or maybe a little bit older once the seasons came out? But geez. That's some good shit right there. Anyway, everyone will think with me talking about her and talking about Lana, I've got a thing for blondes. I really don't. I don't know why. It's just the way it goes. Anyway, all right. Then,
97. We'd have been 9 when that first came out.
Was it 97 when it came out?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, fair enough. So
maybe not when it first came out.
Well, it was season 4, so like that would have been like 2000, 2001. So
nope.
Yeah.
No, season 4. 1997.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's shocking to me. I honestly.
So maybe on repeats.
Yeah. But anyway, because they used to show that shit all the time, like Sky One. That was big around those times. They don't show Star Trek on there anymore. But
I remember. Like I got to the point where I had like completely caught up when the final episode of Voyager aired.
Yeah.
Well up for that.
But have you not watched it all recently though?
No.
The show surprisingly stands up. It's a little bit hokey as of the time back then, because I think like storytelling and everything has evolved a little bit further beyond. But in terms of like the storytelling, I'm making it seem as if it's really rudimentary. It definitely isn't, and they do ask some good questions.
Yeah.
Get some good camaraderie with the crewmates. I think it stands up now, much better than a lot of the shows back then would have. Because you watch some shows from all that time ago, and you're like, "Fuck me, that does not look good." You know, it doesn't
age well.
Yeah, it doesn't age well. But I think maybe because of the fact that this is like set, in a very science fiction-y world, you can kind of it eliminates a lot of those barriers to it. So, but I'm having a lot of fun, and no doubt I'll have that fucking show done in like a couple of months. It will not last long. All right then, Matt. Let's get into some news. We do have some juicy pieces of information this week that came out. I initially thought this was going to be slow news week, and then fuck me, did a lot come out over the course of a couple of days. The biggest news story, I think, is the announcement from Triple H this week, announcing the fact that there will be a tournament in the UK involving British talent and Irish talent.
Have you seen the people in it?
I have seen some of the people in it. I know the list has grown since I've made these notes anyway. But But, so new UK tournament, brilliant. What is it for? It's going to be for a championship. And they're making a new title. It's the UK Championship. This is big news. And Matt, I think clearly this is obviously a reaction to World of Sport locking down some of that UK talent and giving the UK wrestling scene national exposure. That is taking away a piece of the pie that WWE initially didn't have any competition for whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now, they still are the big daddies. Let's not fool ourselves. And it's not even known whether or not World of Sport are really going to continue and start investing in like a continuous show. That's not been known yet. But this is big news. The fact that WWE are coming in, they're making a championship. They're going to start. I mean, I'll even take it out of the words that Triple H said here. It's looking to aim into making a weekly show to air on the network involving the British wrestling scene. Some fans have come out and said that they think that this is a bad thing. I would say to you, look at it from the position of the talent. They are having a fucking party right now. The fact that you've got a terrestrial channel signing up guys to appear on a national coverage channel that you don't have to pay for, if you're not counting your TV license. But you know what I mean? You get it bog standard, right? That's big exposure right there. And then you've got WWE coming in, airing stuff on the network. This is just extra booking opportunities for them, extra dates for them to make money and to get exposure to a worldwide audience.
Yeah.
And the fact you can have a UK WWE champion that is interesting in of itself.
If anything, I've just seen a lot of people just bitching and moaning, like, what about Neville? It's like, he's current talent.
Yeah. These are for guys that WWE are currently not looking into hiring and putting on their main roster. But what I will say, first of all, as well, that title design looks pretty damn tasty. I like the title design. Now, I know the reason why they didn't do it the same as the WWE Championship, because they don't want it to seem as if whoever holds it is on the same level as their main roster champions. But regardless of the reason, I'm happy it's not like the WWE title design, because I think that's getting a little bit gimmicky now with the different colours. And
it does look like a WWE title. It just doesn't have the WWE stamp on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, it's not a carbon copy, because you look at the Universal, the WWE, the women's, the other women's championship. It all looks like,
oddly enough, the one title. Yeah, I mean, the one title that doesn't look like a WWE belt is the Cruiserweight.
Yeah. I mean, even then, that's got the fucking logo slapped on right at the front. But even I get you. I like the Cruiserweight title personally, but I'm okay with the design. I think it's fine. I think it's almost looking at designs from an older era, you know. So I quite enjoy that. Another big name for this, Matt, is that while he's not in it, the competition, because that time of his career has gone, Nigel McGuinness is calling the action with Michael Cole. I'm sure that Daniel Bryan, Matt, is fucking elated with this news. I mean, I read his book, and his book, you can always just sense the fucking how gutted he was that McGuinness ended up not getting the chance with WWE, because he actually announced his injury record to them, and Daniel Bryan hid his. You know, he deserves this, McGuinness. It's way overdue. It's a shame he couldn't actually be in the tournament or anything along those lines, but this is the way that the chips have fallen. And you know what? He does well here. Who knows? This is like an audition for maybe coming to NXT, doing some calling there.
They need guys around for it.
They do indeed. They're looking to get new guys in. And as I said before, Jerry Lawler getting kicked off that pre-show panel, I'm like, could you really, really make a case for 5 announcers in that company being better than Jerry Lawler? And they've got 10 slots currently for announcers on their shows. And that's not even counting their B shows. So it's, you know, maybe this comes to something. And he gets a career almost a little bit like Corey Graves in that sense. Not maybe not so much with the length of in-ring action that McGuinness had. But his actual stamp on WWE isn't the way that he envisioned. It's not in the ring. It's on the commentary booth. And maybe that's just the way it goes. So I'm excited for him for that, because I think he could do really well. This is it's just so interesting, though, and I think this is just the rewards and the benefits from this British wrestling scene really hitting its stride and being as hot as it is for such a sustained period of time. We're not talking just 1 year of the British scene being hot. It's been hot for about 3 years.
Yeah.
You know. And you're making the big boys notice. And when the big boys notice, that's good news. So I'd be very interested to see what the actual those British talents think. Matt, you've got a good idea of who's in the tournament.
No, I thought I did. I think it's because there was a few guys I was sort of like, I was expecting, and they're not in it.
Yeah. Talking of Jimmy Havoc, he's not in it, and apparently he retweeted someone saying, "I'm glad you didn't sell out to WWE." So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. I think the other person was Mastiff.
Oh yeah, which
I was expecting.
But he's not on there either. Yeah, I will say though, when considering his moniker is the Bastard, I'm like, maybe WWE would stay a little bit clear until he gets a bit more of a family-friendly sort of deal going on, or maybe he just didn't want to do it. But they've got some young talent in there. It's going to go over a 2-day period, and this is exciting news. Really exciting. If you're a up-and-coming British talent that's going to get their nose to the grindstone and really try and make a name for themselves, you will not have to jump through the same sort of hoops that a Wade Barrett had to. You won't have to go through the same sort of hoops that a Sheamus had to. I quite like how they've used. They're using Balor as well. Yeah.
As like the representative of this,
which I think is smart. Considering he was, for a little while at least, the face of the growing scene in that time before he went off to
UK scene, Yeah.
I mean, before he became more synonymous. I mean, I know he was already over there at that point, but he became more synonymous with the Japanese scene rather than or the Irish one as it was. So, this is really. I was genuinely shocked, but quite happy. It's going to give these guys just more avenues, more outlets to get their name out there and make a bit more money. And I don't think anyone can be that upset with how it's going there. Yes, WWE might try and monopolize this little bit and eat it up. I'm sure that's part of the reason what they're doing. But ultimately, what we want to see is more UK talent becoming worldwide talent.
Yeah,
ultimately. And making themselves into huge stars. There's a certain degree where you're like, okay, these guys are great. They're so great that we can't be greedy with them. The rest of the world needs to see how good they are. And that's why I'm not as worried maybe as a lot of other UK fans and Irish fans as well. So, interesting take. And it's one of those things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on because it's just interesting to see how this will transpire. So, good stuff on that front. Brock Lesnar this week got a bit of bad news.
He did indeed.
Lesnar faces $250,000 fine, which is significant, but I was expecting a bit more considering the fight purse he actually got for that fight was in the millions. So
yeah,
maybe not too much skin off his back, but still,
it's not a serious chunk of change.
No, but I mean, $250,000 is still $250,000. I'm sure he's not happy with it. And he's got a year UFC ban. The ban hammer, as you will. Not like Van Hammer, guys, not the WCW reject. Ban hammer. Van Hammer.
No.
He's a fan of heavy metal. Yeah. He comes, oh, no, God. Don't go Googling Van Hammer. You don't want to. So, unlike WWE, Matt, UFC actually did something about him popping the estrogen blockers I think he was taking. They actually looked into the actual normal uses of that medication, and it's a weird one. I will say that it's not mainly made for his gender. So I'll leave it at that, and you can do your own research. And more importantly, maybe, because he doesn't seem very happy with it, and I can kind of understand, the victory over Mark Hunt is officially null and void. It's a no contest, so it's been overturned. And Mark Hunt isn't that happy about it because he's looking at it going, where's my money? You know, I'm still waiting for the money that I should be reimbursed for the fact that I fought this guy that was very clearly, in retrospect, popping something he shouldn't have been popping. And not just Pringles on that front, you know. Can't blame a man for popping Pringles, Matt, as you know.
That's it. It's addictive shit, that.
It's addictive shit. So, yeah, I know maybe Mark Hunt's not going to be happy anyway, and he's not going to get that money. It's just the way that this system works. It's not a system that works particularly well, but that's the way it goes. And apparently he's still putting UFC over to on ransom over his contract and stuff like this. So, an ugly situation. But this does stop Lesnar from making any appearances in UFC anytime soon. And I tell you what, it does tarnish his legacy in UFC. You know, the fact that this has to be addressed. There has to be accepted that in order to win this fight that he won, quite comfortably so, it's all for mute because of the stuff that he was taking. And I don't want to hear from anyone else going along the lines of, oh, maybe they're popping him for something that isn't really... No, they caught him. And the difference is that WWE just came out and said, well, we don't test him. Doesn't mean that he's not popping anything. It just means that he's in a position where the company has to change their system to adhere to what he wants to do. Yeah. UFC clearly wasn't. UFC have to abide by different rules because they abide by different athletic commissions. WWE don't.
The fact that it's actually, like athletic competitive.
Yeah, it's actually a sport.
That's a terrible. Yeah, that's it. That's what we're going at. Because I was really struggling with words then for a second.
Yeah, and this may annoy people, and I know I said it before, wrestling is not sport. It takes athletes to do it, but it's not sport.
Yeah.
You know? Amateur wrestling is sport. Pro wrestling isn't. So that's just the way it is. People just getting annoyed. I find it funny, people get annoyed, but yeah, it's a sport. And I'm like, it isn't. It isn't. And the quicker you accept that and accept wrestling for what it is and understand what it is and that it's okay to be that way, the easier that you'll be, and you won't get so butthurt about little things like that. But alas, anyway. Matt, this was juicy. You brought. I don't know if you put a link to this on our Facebook page. The leaked instructions for the house shows.
I did, yeah.
Do you have a good read through that?
I did. I do quite like that specifically. Unless you're John Cena bit.
Yeah. There's a lot of restrictions here, a lot of guidelines. Before we get into the stuff that I think is fucking ridiculous and very indicative to the sort of corporate facade that the company's kind of got and to stick up their own ass, essentially. Let's go through some of the things that I agree with. First of all, anything on there that it came up on there about saying that if a talent is injured but trying to suck it up and continue with the match, don't let them do it. You know, make sure that you act accordingly if someone is very badly injured and stop the match from carrying on and give the appropriate signals. All of that, I've got no problem with. I really don't. The very idea that wrestlers should suck it up and continue with the match, I think is an outdated concept now anyway.
Yeah.
People are going to get hurt, but the difference is I would much rather someone go out of a match who's injured and then therefore it's like if they carry on, it's cutting off years of their career, than the alternative, which is them cutting off years of their career. You know, it's the way it is. So, Matt, let's talk about the things that unfortunately don't make much sense. So, I went through the list. The amount of loopholes, I'm just going to use as an example, Matt. Cesaro is having a match with Sheamus. Just using this as an example.
Okay.
If Cesaro wants to do a promo on that house show, bearing in mind it's not airing on the network or on any TV station, if he wants to do a promo, he has to get the entire promo, almost word for word, that vetted.
Vetoed.
Yeah. Before he can actually go out and do it. Which I think is ridiculous. I think you should trust your people to be professionals. And if there was one place to do it where it's not going to matter as much, the house shows is where you do it. You know? The other stuff, if you want to use weapons, that needs to be... you need to have permission.
Well, yep.
Yeah. Pretty much anything out of the ordinary that isn't just a regular wrestling match, you need permission for. That that includes like ref bumps, anything along those lines. If there is a ref bump,
ideally no ref bumps at all, because they want to avoid making the refs look less than. I'm struggling with words at the moment. They don't want refs looking like weak, pointless. They want to keep the word I'm trying to think of.
I guess they want to keep.
They want to keep the refs credible.
Yeah, fair enough with that. But I will say one of the most fun points in pro wrestling was the Attitude Era, and every single week there was a referee going out. You know what I mean? It almost happened every single main event because it would add to some of the drama. But okay, fair enough. But it's just, I think I was genuinely shocked. Not really shocked, but I guess maybe a little bit disheartened by, if, let's say Cesaro wants to do this, if he wants to promo, if he wants to have a hardcore match, maybe to top off the show, really make these fans go home happy, or even just go a little bit outside the box, he probably has to talk to about 5 or 6 different people backstage before he can even start thinking of ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's very indicative to the way that WWE performs their operations nowadays. It's very much everything has to be checked, everything has to be vetoed, you need permission for everything. And you can't, I think that this is one of those things where it's almost this sort of culture around WWE where people really are walking on eggshells. People are afraid to breathe in case they don't have permission to do so.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is you get a lot. This is what happens here. You get a talent pool that doesn't have any creativity because they're not stretching out their creativity on these house shows and exploring different avenues and coming up with new moves and coming up with new ways to talk and do promos and get fan responses because they're not allowed to. Yeah. And then you're getting guys that are so scared of doing anything wrong that they become basically just corporate drones. You know?
Yeah.
This is part of the reason I firmly believe why most of the talent nowadays come off as rehearsed and boring, because they're not doing anything different to what they would do the week before. They're just basically doing it in a different place. You know, these house shows for me would be a perfect opportunity. Yeah, maybe not so much the hardcore matches because you don't want to risk people getting injured at a house show. Fully understand that. But promos...
I think if anything, it's trying to save itself. Like the whole, the use of weapons has to be authorized. I think if anything, it's trying to prevent, like what happened to Rollins.
Yeah.
When he blew out his knee, trying to put Kane through a table at a house show.
Which completely ruined their plans for WrestleMania that year. Yeah. I understand it, but which is ironic because that spot could have happened even if there wasn't any weapons or anything in that match. It literally just was a suicide. Sorry, that was a sunset flip on the turnbuckle that just went wrong.
But would he have done it if he wasn't trying to put Kane through a table? I think that's
I get you, but I think the point I'm trying to make there is that injuries can happen in a straight match.
Oh
anyway.
Yeah.
You know? I'm worried for that talent pool because I'm sure they show up to a house show. You might have some new guys coming in thinking, I'm going to try this week. I'm going to try saying this week. And then by the time that they've kind of come up with the idea of what they might do, you go up to someone backstage, they go through your promo and they change everything in it and say, sorry, you can't do this because for some reason, management doesn't want you to say this, and this, and this, and this, so you're not doing a promo this week. And you've got that new talent.
The one thing I quite liked is the fact that a lot of things had to go through Hayes. That's not a problem. Like, I can understand why they'd want to put it through PS Hayes, but on the list of those at the event, Hayes wasn't there.
Yeah,
you have to run it all through PS Hayes. But he's not around. Well, you'll have to try and get a hold of him.
Yeah, or it's one of those things of do what you're being told this week, and when he's around, then you can ask him.
Although I was really confused because it said that one of the producers was Devon, and I'm like, Devon's a producer now?
I think they're working backstage, aren't they? Or one of them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think they're getting Bubba back to do a singles run, and Devon's working as an agent. So maybe along those lines.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I have to say, guys, reading through this, I imagine that this isn't the first time that the talent have been handed something like this, and how stifling to their creativity. I'm sure this is probably one of the reasons why CM Punk booked out, because he wanted to try X, Y, and Z, and they're like, no,
No, you can do X.
Yeah.
If I don't do Y and Z, it doesn't make sense. Well,
it's not our problem. Yeah. I think I would imagine WWE currently in the climate that it's in is probably one of the more stifling environments to be around. But there we are. All right. Just one thing I want to come up here just a little bit. I don't want to talk about this too much. The fact that there was an aftermath out of this whole hashtag Black Excellence thing that came out from the New Day. God, why is this an issue? Sometimes I believe, Matt, especially on Twitter, because this is when this all happened, just proves that sometimes people look for reasons to get up in a fit and moan about something. All it was I think it was the New Day and Sasha Banks supposedly win the championship with a hashtag.
And as well as the Cruiserweight champ.
Oh, Rich Swann. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I just think, I'm like, for some reason, idiots thought that Kofi Kingston is a black supremacist. Whoever thinks that needs their fucking head examined. Just because you're proud of the fact that your race, no less than 20 years ago, probably wouldn't have been able to get to that point, and the fact that things have changed and they're happy about that. You know, it's like people are like, oh, I find it stupid for some people to be along the lines of, well, if you really want equality, then you must forget everything about of the sort of things that, you know, your roots and the struggles that you had to get to that point. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. It comes off as especially rich. I'm a white person saying this. If I'm white and I understand this, I don't understand where other people are coming from. You know, if you said
the one thing I quite like though is I did see a bunch of people going on about, look at the diversity. It's like, what do you mean diversity? It's all black now. It's like, that's a terrible way of looking at it.
I think it's just so, some people just looking for a reason just to moan about shit on Twitter. Twitter's the worst place for that, in my opinion. Yeah. And like now, if you said hashtag Black Lives Matter more than white, then you can have a problem with that. But it's just black excellence. Because they're excellent and they're black. Sorry, do you want anything? Do you need to explain any further to these people? Yes. I don't get it. I just wanted to bring that up. And I honestly think that some people are just getting a little bit anal. They're making it a deal out of nothing. And the fact that Kofi had to make a very well-worded response to it, I'm just like, why did that even have to be done? But there we are. Anyway, we're actually running out of time for this hour-long show that we're meant to do. We've got to do some fan feedback then, Matt, and we're out of here. Oh, okay, go on.
News. One bit. I wouldn't really call it news. About Owens and the whole mum going, how dare you be a heel.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know why I didn't put this in. This is
fucking ridiculous.
Here's my thought. I mean, guys, if you haven't caught it, essentially, there's a video that was circulating around of Kevin Owens telling what was he, probably 8, 9, maybe a kid, anyway, to not wear his t-shirts because he doesn't want them to wear them, right?
Apparently the kid reached out to try and touch him.
Yeah, okay.
He's like, you don't get to touch me. In fact, I don't even want you wearing my gear.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Is Owens being a little bit harsh to a kid of that age? Yeah. Okay, he is, right? Even though it's relatively tame by the old standards and the shit that used to happen back then. But it's still, as a 9-year-old, as a guy with kids, right? If someone had done that to my kid and they cried, I can understand why my child would cry, because it's just, you just don't expect it. But here's the deal with this. I don't think Kevin Owens is in the wrong. The parents are in the wrong.
Yep.
And the reason why I say this, Matt, is because if your child doesn't understand that this is a show and that he's he's playing a bad person, right? Just like fucking Tom Hiddleston plays Loki, right? In a Marvel movie. Yeah. It's not a bad person. He's a person playing a bad person. If that is honestly so scarring to your child and you can't sit them down because they're a child of an even mind and go, I know you're upset, but this is a show. He is a bad person. He's playing a bad person. He really doesn't mean it. That's the character he's playing. And yeah, I'm sure the kid might be a little bit upset, but that's you. You know, maybe it's one of those things that, like, oh, you don't want to tell them that wrestling's not real. I'm like, then, for the sake of the conversation, sake of sparing his thought, then just explain to him that it is, that it isn't real. You know, and I honestly believe that the person going on about this is one of those things. I can guarantee you what this is, man. I can guarantee you what this is. This is someone's son becoming a fan of wrestling, but the parents don't know what wrestling is.
Yeah.
And they're taking their son, not knowing that if you take your son and they've got ringside seats and they try and interact with the heel will normally snap back. It's a character to do that. The same way that if you go on a ride and you poke your hand out at a scary T-Rex that's going raw on like some roller coaster or something, that T-Rex is going to roar at you because it's a fucking T-Rex and it's part of the show. It's part of the attraction, you know? So it's one of those things that I don't blame the kid. I don't blame Kevin Owens, but I think that the parents, to blow up as much as they can and really point the finger, I'm like, just sit your kid down. It doesn't take long, you know, just to sit him down and go, that's just the character he's playing. He is a nice person, you know, but he's playing a character. He's pretending. He's playing pretend, you know. It's not that hard to do that, you know what I mean? If I was to do that to my daughter, she would literally get onto it and in about 10 minutes, done. Easy. You know what I mean? Wouldn't even care. But the fact that apparently, this kid now no longer wants to watch any wrestling whatsoever. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to get into this too much. I just think that it wasn't even that harsh, let's be honest.
The one thing I dislike the most about it is the fact that it's just like, oh, you don't want to break the nostalgia that wrestling's not real. It's like, everyone knows that wrestling is fake. Like, all you need to do is, like, we're going to a show. There are good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
He is a bad guy. If anything, it will allow the parent an opportunity to sort of teach their child a valuable lesson in, you know, good versus evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, chances are, like, backstage, someone may have noticed that. I mean, if the child really reacted to it, and chances are the face probably would have gone straight for the kid.
Yeah, I even point this to I'll give you a perfect opportunity to a younger fan who understands and gets with the program. Izzy from NXT.
Prime example, yeah.
Right? She was in fucking tears over the shit that Sasha Banks did to her. But she loves wrestling, and she even made signs for Sasha and all this lot. I know she was involved in the show, so maybe not the same sort of deal. But it's someone that their parents had gone to and said, oh, you know, because she's a bad person. But don't worry, the face will get her. The face will, you know, the face will make sure they pay for that. Don't you worry.
I mean, Izzy is kind of a unique exception to that.
I know, but I guess I was looking for an example. But there we go.
I think it's just the mum just like, I want stuff.
That's what Owen said anyway.
Feel better.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a massive overreaction, and I think honestly that I look at that and I'm like, as a heel wrestler, he could have said far more. Yeah. Back in the golden days of pro wrestling, far more would have been said. As in, and I'm coming up just on top of my head. You should be thanking me because I'm your dad because I fucked your mum. You know, stuff like this. You know, like,
I mean, that's probably a bit more independent than.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I'm like, to this guy, literally just said, I don't want you touching me. I don't want you watching having my gear. Now, he did get in the kid's face a little bit, but whatever. You know, you educate your child. That's what I'm saying. And they become better for it, you know. Because then they understand, oh, yeah, he is a bad guy, isn't he? And guess what? That Roman Reigns is going to take him out, right? Watch it as Roman Reigns gets him, you know. Then you get the entertainment factor of the show. I don't know. That, like I said, Matt, I think it's just two parents that their son was into wrestling, but they had no idea what it was, and they just went anyway, and there we go. Anyway, fan feedback, Matt. We're going to go a little bit over our scheduled time, but that's okay. Thomas Oliver asks our thoughts on the WWE UK Championship, whether or not we're pleased or upset that it might kill the UK wrestling scene, as there's only so much product we can take. Well, we talked to that at the start of the show.
Yeah.
As I said, that I think it's more bookings, more exposure. I'm just interested to see how both avenues go. And there's not really much else that we can really elaborate too much on that. He does have another question that we can elaborate a bit more on. He also asks, which WWE superstar would benefit and thrive with a run on the indie scene? I had instantly my response to this, Matt. You've got anyone in mind?
I didn't have anyone in mind, but I'm curious what yours is.
Instantly, well, my first thought was Cesaro. No doubt.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's one of those things that he's a tag team wrestler currently on WWE, but you've already got sound bites from the head honcho over in New Japan saying that if there was two guys he wanted, I can't remember the other guy he said, but one of them he said
Ziggler.
was Cesaro. Sorry, who was it?
Ziggler was the other guy.
Oh, Ziggler. Yeah, Ziggler and Cesaro, right? So you could tell that he would be at least favored by the personnel there. He could go in, and that his style of wrestling would go over so well in Japan. That hard-hitting, striking, those uppercuts. They would eat up those uppercuts over in Japan. They would fucking love it. So I'm not even talking about just in Japan. Everyone would want a piece of Cesaro. He's just that good, right? And he comes across like a star, right? He's got that unreal strength. He could do feats that almost no one else can.
Yep.
He would make a fucking shit ton of money if he decided, fuck it, I'm going back to the Indies, I'm going back to Ring of Honor, and I'm going to New Japan, and I'm doing all of those things. So, who do you think, Matt, or have you got anyone better than Cesaro? Can you raise the betting here on this?
I don't think I can, to be honest. No, I think he would probably be the better choice, just for sheer capability of match types. I don't think there's anyone else who could really benefit.
I'm sure Ziggler. Talking to Ziggler, actually, I think he could make a lot of money if he went indies, but he's one of those guys. As I said before, I think he enjoys the comforts of the WWE system a lot more than maybe he believes he does, because he hasn't ever. Maybe he's one of those guys that he comes off as confident, but he's not confident enough to speak with his actions. He couldn't do a Cody Rhodes, that's what I'm saying. No. And actually leave and put his name on the table and start working out in different
Cody
places.
has paid off on that.
Oh yeah, he's going to be in Wrestle Kingdom, for fuck's sake. Right? That's a big deal as the American Nightmare. I love that idea, the American Nightmare. In Japan, of all places. That shit's going to work instantly. Obviously, to play off the American dream.
It's going to fucking pay out.
It's going to pay off. It's going to be so good. Alex from World Wrestling Boom says that he hasn't watched a full wrestling match in over a month, and he has still been listening to us. We're more entertaining than WWE. And it's comments like those that make me fucking guilty for taking the break. It really does. Sorry, dude. My bad. I appreciate it, though. Anyone that says that sort of stuff, we appreciate it more than you guys could realize, honestly. In fact, it's those sort of comments and that sort of stuff and asking the questions that kept us chugging along a lot longer than maybe we could have gone without that. So, if you guys think, it sucks that we're going away, you guys kept us around. You really did. And you should be proud of that, in that fact. Kane St. Dennis understands the wrestling burnout, but he doesn't feel it. Maybe from being a fan of 7 years, but he still absolutely loves wrestling. He wants our thoughts on that and what of our favorite tag team finishing moves. First of all, 7 years is a long while. I don't want to be like I'm one-upping you or anything, but I have been a wrestling fan for longer than that. I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, without sounding like condescending, it's like
too much like
7 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching wrestling when I was fairly young. So you're looking almost like 20 years I've been watching wrestling. So, but I mean, the thing is with that, though, is that I watched wrestling and I appreciated it in different aspects of as I grew up. As a kid, fully into kayfabe. As a teenager, not so much, but still kind of inspired and all that sort of stuff. And as an adult, I fell in love with the veil. I've talked about it a lot before, how things work underneath, and why you would book here and how would you book there and and stuff like this. So I think maybe it might be. I'm just guessing, Kane. I don't know this for sure. I'm guessing we're older than you. I'm close to 30 now, so is Matt. So maybe I know when you get older, you just get more cynical. So maybe when we see things, and I think, when we see things, we're a bit more burned out. But when we see things, I think recently, a lot of the stuff is recycled light versions of the stuff we watched 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And even that was recycled light stuff. Some of it was of the stuff that was 10 years before that. So I'm glad you aren't burned out. That's awesome. I guess one other thing I will say, Matt, as well. I think part of the reason why my reviews of Raw have been negative is because my expectations for storytelling have surpassed where WWE are willing to go. I've watched a lot of really good shows where the storytelling, and I don't expect WWE to match that because they are essentially a wrestling soap opera because they operate on a weekly basis. But it's one of those things that the complexity of the booking now is no different to what it was 10 years ago. And I think that is a massive issue. It's still ultimately, I'm the number one contender. I'm fighting you because I don't like you. I think as wrestling, we could have gone above, and we had already gone above that before. But it seems like we reverted now to it being very safe and being very much of, I don't know. That's my main issues with it on that front. But you certainly shouldn't feel bad that you're not burned out. That's fantastic. Awesome. Keep going on. Crack on. I think you should definitely do that. Tag team moves. There was only one that jumped out to me just immediately as soon as I thought of tag team moves. Because you don't get many. I don't even think New Day have a tag team finishing move, which is...
Yeah, they do.
They don't win very many matches with it, though, do they? It's one of their finishers that finishes the matches.
They hold, when they do like the big ending leg drop sort of thing.
Yeah, but I don't think people associate that with the New Day. The New Day, back in the day, tag teams would basically only finish matches with that tag team finishing.
Well, like a 3D.
Yeah. My one that I thought of immediately is the Doomsday device from the Road Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
I love the image of that. I mean, back then, even to see a guy as big as the Road Warriors were, one of them going to the top rope and doing a top rope clothesline, so another guy's got up in an electric chair. I can only imagine that even if you knew these guys were going to take care of you because they were solid workers, it's going to still be scary watching one of those guys get up and fucking jump at you. They were scary motherfuckers. By the way,
talk as well. It's the one thing you definitely just wouldn't want to I'm leaping at you. Oh no, I don't want that. I'm jumping at you, and I'm like, Animal's gonna pick you up, and I'm gonna fucking jump at you. No.
And I'll tell you what, that can clearly surpass. That was far dirtier and far more brutal than any of the other finishes from tag teams around the era. So that's
apparently I was watching a What Culture video earlier, and it was like the top 10 most protected finishers. Doomsday's one of them. No one has kicked it.
Yeah, it's when you got hit with that, you were done.
Yeah,
I thought also one thing I just want to put this in as an honorable mention. DIY, when they do that double super kick that squeezes the head of their opponent, all I can think of was like an anime and the fucking head exploding and blood coming out of the top and everything and shit like that. So that looks fucking savage. I didn't want to put that in there as a best tag team finisher, but I'll go with Doomsday Device. What would you reckon anyway, Matt?
Well, I've already mentioned it. I'll probably say 3D.
Yeah? Yeah, they put away a lot of teams with that. Won championships, Matt, with that,
That's it.
The fact as well that they could use that with their tables and stuff like that, it was
it allowed that flexibility to be situational.
Yeah, and it worked out for them. They're doing it still. Well, I would say still to this day. The fucking horrendous WWE run they went on, but still. Broken Matt indulged in the podcast while soaking himself in a very warm and relaxing bath, complete with a rubber duck. My rubber duck, by the way, was taken by the dog, and it's just not the same with holes in it. So. He would cast Dean Ambrose in a porno called Dirty Deeds. This is in response to the question we got last week, where he works as a mechanic and bangs the customers. I have a different way of going around this, Matt. Do you want to hear my new wrestling porno pitch?
Okay.
So it's Dean Ambrose. He is insane. But he's he's still obviously, sexy because, being in a porno. He's in an asylum. He's an asylum patient who's been put there because he has mind powers to master the nurse's titties. There you go.
Ah, of course.
That's the movie right there. There you go. And it's all the nurses coming in trying to, help him out or everything. And he uses his mind powers and immediately they just whip the babies out and they start doing it. So there you go. There you go. I haven't thought of a film title, but,
What's like imagining just like a terrible Magneto.
His powers was silicon instead of metal.
That's it.
Yeah. And he's got the helmet to match. It's just a fucking pair of tits on his head. This is all I can think of is little Nicky now with a fucking bra with a guy with tits on his head. Anyway, moving away from a shameless pay-per-view plot. What about you, Matt? You got any wrestling pornos? Anything other ones?
No, I can honestly say I didn't give it much more thought.
I thought you were saying that. Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I've given it tons of thought. I don't know whether or not this says something about you and B. I just don't know. Anyway, Dat Young Gaming God says that we should take a hiatus or a break. Fucking hell, he read our minds, did he not? Fucking hell. He feels Matt's pain and says that Ellsworth is killing him, especially having 8 weeks of a gap until the Royal Rumble, and he's now obviously involved very heavily in the title picture. He asks, what are our thoughts on Percy Watson commentating on NXT, and what was the first game, wrestling game, and what was our favourite game of 2016? I thought we already talked about Percy Watson. I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I think. So you can go back and listen to that. But we did talk about it. Basically, long story short, it's too early to tell if he's any good or if he's bad. But it's okay because NXT is the place that he should learn anyway, and that's what it's there for. We get a bit of game talk here. Do you remember the first game you ever played?
Is it the first game I've ever played?
Yeah.
Jesus. I don't know. It'd probably be a NES Mario game, but I couldn't tell you what it would be.
It'd probably be one of those ones that you went to a friend's house and it was just popped in there and you played it without even knowing, and then sort of thing.
That's it.
Mine's going to make me feel very fucking old. My first game, I think it was called Flicky's Quest, and it's not a Sonic game because I know it was a Sonic game called Sonic Flicky's Island or something. No, it wasn't that. It was like Flicky's Quest, and the reason why I remember it is because as for a birthday present, I was given 2 floppy disks for a Commodore 64
that
had the game on it. And yeah, that's the first game I ever played, Flicky's Quest. I got it as a present.
Jesus,
Commodore 64. That was the shit. I'm telling you right now. So that was the time when the Commodore 64, I think it was the Atari. I can't remember. What was the Atari one? They were like the only 2 consoles available, and then the other ones started coming out, like the SNES and then the Mega Drive and the Game Boy, some of the really early ones. But that was the first game I ever played. I do remember, man, this is going to make me feel even older, when the first ever Batman movie came out. They released a game to come with it. And it ran on a very, very basic PC. Like, we're talking very, very early ass PCs. And that, my dad played it. I was so intrigued by it, but I never actually played it myself. And I can't remember anything about it. I just remember seeing the box art and thinking, what the fuck's that? That looks Amiga. Cool. There you go.
In fact, I'm looking at vintage games for the 80s, and then, Batman, 1989 for the Amiga.
Yeah. Now, I was like, when he was, I'm talking like when he got that, I couldn't have been anything but 4. And that was even like 3 years after the game came out. So, you can tell this is early days. But yeah, Commodore 64. My favorite game this year, I've already talked about it loads. I don't know it easily. It's Battlefield 1. That game
Yep.
Yeah, are you exactly the same with that? Yeah.
100%. I saw an advert for it earlier. I'm like, greatest game.
Yeah. I tell you what, I had gone out of, I've almost fallen out of love with shooters after the countless Call of Duties that kept coming out. And I did like Battlefield 4 because I played it a little bit. But the way that Battlefield 1 ended up gripping me with the thematic and the, the period, it captured my attention far more than Battlefield 4 did. And I think maybe I'm one of those people that when they simplified a few of the aspects from Battlefield 4, it almost helped me get into it more a little bit with Battlefield 1. And I think it's a rousing success. Apparently, it's like one of the most successful Battlefield games ever released. So, awesome. I will say, though, it didn't come out this year, but I've been playing The Witcher 3 like a motherfucker over the last couple of weeks. I love that game. That game's brilliant. But Battlefield is my game in 2016 anyway. Is there anything else that you want to cover then, Matt?
No.
I had a bunch of side stuff to get through, but man, we went through that hour pretty quickly. We're even going over time. So we have to wrap up here then, guys. So the next time we will see you is around Royal Rumble. You'll get a much more firm idea on where this is going from there on out. I did those plugs at the beginning of the show because I don't know about Matt, but I'm still going to be around on the Facebook, and even though the podcast may not be around, I'll still be leaving my thoughts randomly on there. So if you do want to still interact, that is the best place to do it, because that's just easy for me. I can just watch the wrestling, just put a fucking post up, bish bash bosh, have a conversation with a few of the people on there, and it's good shit. But if we know for sure that in January or February, if we know for sure that things haven't changed and we will be quitting up, then we won't be just not doing an episode. We will be doing an episode, and we will be going through everything. We'll be talking about. Yeah. Basically, we won't leave you hanging without any sort of answers. You'll know exactly what our thoughts are, where we're going, and what our plans are. And that's the bottom line of it there. Is there anything else you want to say to Matt?
No, I got nothing else to add.
All right, then. So we'll do those plugs again. If you would like to interact with us, main way of doing so, as I said there, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. You can send a tweet to our Twitter handle, which is
@TalkWrestlePod.
Mm-hmm. That's the best way to get in contact directly with Matt. If you don't want my nosy little eyes to see them, that's the way it is. You still go on the Facebook, though, Matt. You've been posting up on there more this week than I have. So. And you can send us any questions and stuff like that. If you want our thoughts on wrestling over the course of this time, or as a match that you definitely want us to catch, then sending an email is probably the best way to do it, or a message on Facebook. But anyway, on our email, let's talk wrestling podcast @gmail.com, and all that stuff is in the description for you there. Not the podcast I think you guys were expecting to get. But I hope you guys appreciate the fact that we had to be just completely 100% honest with you and tell you exactly where we're going. But apart from then, we'll see you in January. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Didn't even bring that up. Yeah.
More importantly, yeah.
Yeah. Have a great Christmas, guys. Hope you get all that you want from Santi. Hope he sprinkles a little bit of magic in your life. And more importantly, Matt, I'm just going to be watching fucking tons of movies with my family. That, to me, is the perfect Christmas right there. Tons of Christmas movies with the kids and the wife. Fucking hell, that's that. I'm an easy man for Christmas. That's all I want. Chocolate in the Chocolate Factory. I've got to remember that over Gene Wilder. So
of course.
All right then, guys. Have a great couple of weeks. We'll catch you in January. Hope you have a great time. Thanks a lot all for your support. And until then, we'll chat to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye
bye. Bye bye.
Oh.